Hello, a Vlogodome video, mainly for Pyrrho, but hello to the Vlogodome Matrodomo, Mr. Gary, and apologies for making what should hopefully turn out to be an incredibly boring video. I've just been working outside, so I'm a bit bzzz, because I'm using a router and it kind of rattles you up, but the idea I'm sure should have crossed. Mr. Pyrrho, now, I've just watched your last two videos that were attacked and vicious and savagely savaged by Gary, and it looks like you're almost down to, unless you can come up with something else, I can recognise a pattern in you lot called will. You're strong-willed individuals, so how can you sit there and deny your will? As Gary pointed out in 25 minutes, I'll leave that how it was, and Gary's explanation was perfectly fine. What I'd like to add to you, Pyrrho, is, so I came in and making coffee, and I thought, should I make a video on Vlogodome to Pyrrho? And I thought, yes. What should I talk about? Well, it's got to be free will, hasn't it? So, it being free will, what angle can I come in at? And it's pattern recognition, Pyrrho. Pattern recognition. You recognising, I'm not a strong-willed person. I'm a wimp compared to Gary. He's got drive and he's a grury dog and I'm a pussycat. And as Gary explained, that's because of, the way we are and the way we've lived and the way we are now. And I wanted to show you that's a pattern. What you're seeing, you see, that's a problem already, but what you're seeing is a pattern, and you call it willpower. So I thought, well, what other patterns can I put to Pyrrho and say, can you see these patterns, and what do you think about these patterns? So straight onto Google, and hit list of emotions, and I got a good website up first thing. And on it is a list of theorists, Plutchik, Arnold, Gray, Izzard and all that lot, James, that'll be your American James, I'm sure, and basic emotions, the list of them. Now, what I'd like to stress to you, Pyrrho, is that these are patterns that we think we can recognise in other people, and to an extent we have programs that can recognise it in ourselves as well. They're patterns. Acceptance is the first one because it's the top of Plutchik's basic emotions. Acceptance, right? How do you do acceptance? You can't do acceptance. But life goes on. I'm waving my hands around already. Life goes on, and you out there sees in me something called acceptance. It's a pattern recognition called acceptance. I can't do acceptance, yeah? Anger. We started with anger, but you didn't like it, me killing the next door neighbour, so I toned it down to toast, which was maybe toning it down too far. Anticipation. We can, as Gary was saying, anticipation's there, but it's right on the, we see just as it tips over the edge from we haven't a clue where it came from to poof, it's already gone. Except anticipation, it might be going poof, 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 but that's all it's doing. You can't make anticipation, can you? Disgust. Disgust, you're either disgusted or you're not disgusted. Joy. Can you, oh, I think I'll be joyful now. No, you can't. Fear. You're either fearful or you're not fearful. Why? Because you've been taught to fear snakes and you've just seen a wiggle or whatever it might be. Sadness. If sadness comes, what are you going to do about it? Ooh, slap yourself, pull yourself together, surprise. So somebody goes, bah! You can go, oh, I am not surprised. You're either surprised or you're not surprised. And it's pattern recognition. If I see you go, bah! When I go, boo, I go, that was surprise. It's just a pattern. Recognise something that's happened. It's just like seeing a tree. So some of these would repeat. Arnold's anger, aversion, courage. As Gary was telling you about courage, you can't do courage. Either courage will happen or it won't happen. Dejection, desire. Desire? Can you say that, did you get married? I don't know. But did you promise to love, honour and obey? Can you do that, love, honour and obey, and say, I'm going to do that till the day I die? Or do you press a button and say, I'll turn the loving off and the obeying and the honouring, turn it on and off. No, of course you can't. It either is or it isn't. Yeah? Sorry, hate. Can you turn hate off? No, it either turns itself off or it turns itself on. Love, sadness, anger, disgust, and these are just different ones. Happiness and sadness down at Watson, Werner and Graham. But down below I've got yellow, pink and green. Primary emotions, love. Can you choose who you want to love? That was one of my first videos at U Doubled. Can you choose who you love? No. Either love, you see it on the edge, or you don't. And you can either... Can you decide to stop loving your children? No, of course you can't. Joy, surprise, anger, sadness and fear are meant to be the primary emotions. Secondary emotions, affection. Affection, just general affection. What's the difference between affection and love? Can you do affection as opposed to love? No, you can do neither of them. But what is the difference between affection and love? Somebody who thinks they can spot a pattern, or think they spot a pattern that they can call love, or spot a pattern that they can call affection. Lust. Longing. Lust. Can you turn that on and off? Yeah. Longing. Longing. You must have done some longing. I've done longing. I can recognise longing in me. There's pattern recognition software running that can recognise overall happenings, and one of them might have been a longing. I've had a longing. Have you had a longing? I've had longings. I don't turn them on and off. Cheerfulness. I'm pretty cheerful now. I've done a good afternoon's work. I've come in. I'm cheerful. But if I wasn't, I wouldn't have been. I'm not. But I am. It turns itself on and off whenever. And just at the arriving point, consciousness might see it. It's not me that sees it. That's just another program that's running. The consciousness that sees it. There's no me that sees it. But if you want to call me anything, you might as well call me that, consciousness. But that doesn't really make any sense either. Pride. You know, pride or not. I've got pride. I worked quite well this afternoon. I've got pride. If I was made differently, I could say, because I was doing a routering, but I didn't put all the guides in place, so it's a bit freehand, and I could have done it better, a bit less pride. But it all depends how I was grown up, how I've been drowned. My entire life goes into it. I've got no choice over it at all, because there is no me to have a choice. Enthrallment. There, you could probably spot enthrallment. But how could anybody do enthrallment? They can't. But it's a pattern that if you're an enthrallment spotter, you might be able to spot. Relief. Same. Surprise. Irritation. Can you do the difference between irritation and anger? It's a pattern. You think you can spot it and you think you can label it. Put a little label on it. Call it irritation. Pattern recognition. It's what we do. Exasperation. Rage. Spot the difference between exasperation and rage? Can you go, oh no, I'm not going to rage about that, but I'll do a bit of exasperation. Bollocks. Disgust. Envy. Torment. Ooh, there's another one. Ooh, I think I might do some torment at the moment. Ooh, I fancy a bit of torment. Suffering, sadness, disappointment, shame, neglect, sympathy, horror, nervousness. Oh, nervousness. Oh, I'll have a bit of that. No, turn the nervousness off. I think I will be bold today. Adoration, affection, love, fondness and liking. Sort that lot out. They're just labels that people think they can put on because they think they've spotted a pattern. And as we communicate between each other, we agree, kind of, sort of, about what labels to put on what sort of patterns. That's a tree, and that's adoration, that's affection, that's love, that's fondness, and that's liking. Of course, we all get it wrong because we never really truly agree quite what's what. Sometimes not even about trees. Attraction, caring, tenderness. Do some caring, do some tenderness. Turn the caring off, turn the tenderness on. Rubbish. Compassion, sentimentality. You see what I mean? Can you see? You can't do any of these things. It's all pattern recognition. Yeah, your will. You're thinking about will. It's exactly one of these. It's just a pattern that's recognised. You recognise it in Gary as strong willpower. You see it in me because you'll say, well, I've willed myself to make this video and make it in this way. I've willed it. I've willed not to be angry, to be angry. not to kill the next door neighbour, to make toast, to drink coffee. But it's just a label, you pin on it. You say, well, that's will. That's an exhibition of will. It's not an exhibition of will. It's a pattern that we have learned to stick a label on. Enthusiasm, zeal and zest. Excitement, thrill and exhilaration. Can you see? All labels. Contentment and pleasure. Pride and triumph. Pride. Triumph? No. Pride's naughty. I'll just do the triumph. Eagerness. Do you notice you were eager a lot more when you were younger? Is that because we could will our eagerness a lot more when we were younger, and eagerness kind of drops off a bit when we're older? Is that because our willpower power is dropping off? Pattern recognition. Hope, optimism, enthrallment, rapture. Rapture, beep yours. Relief, amazement, surprise and astonishment. You can spot the difference between surprise and astonishment. And amazement, probably. Pattern recognition, that's what we do. That's why we don't bump into doors, as Gary says. It's pattern recognition, that's all we do. Darwinian evolution. It's got us to where we is now. Pattern recognition. Nobody's doing it, it just happens. It's just a reflection. Blah, 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 blah. Once I called it a crystal, because there's all sorts of bing-bong bings happening. Blah, great big pattern recognition. If it works, if it doesn't, you're out. Amazement, surprise, aggravation, irritation, agitation, annoyance, grouchiness and grumpiness. Do you spot any of that in this video? Can you see any aggravation, irritation, agitation, annoyance, grouchiness or grumpiness? Can you? You would probably be able to spot the difference. Or am I pretending? Am I willing the pretense? Or am I really grumpy? Or am I not grumpy? Is this exasperation, frustration, anger, rage, outrage, fury, wrath, hostility, ferocity, bitterness, hate, loathing, scorn, spite, vengefulness, dislike or resentment? You'd spot the difference between a dislike and resentment, wouldn't you? You'd go, well, in that situation, that's not really dislike, that's resentment. Pattern recognition. Stick a label on it. We've got words. Professor Anton loves his words. That's all it is. Except he sticks them all over the place and makes up. What Gary's trying to do is stick sensible, workable names on sensible, workable things. Disgust, revulsion and contempt, envy, jealousy, torment, agony, suffering, hurt, anguish, depression, despair, hopelessness, gloom, glumness, sadness, unhappiness, grief, sorrow, woe, misery and melancholy. Dismay, disappointment, displeasure, guilt, shame, regret and remorse, alienation, isolation, neglect, loneliness, rejection, homesickness, defeat, dejection, insecurity, embarrassment, humiliation and insult. Can you tell the difference between insecurity and embarrassment? Probably you could. Why? Because that's what you are. You're a pattern recognition machine. Pity, sympathy for people that can't do the pattern recognition thing properly. Alarm, shock, fear, fright, horror, terror, panic, hysteria, mortification. Anxiety, nervousness, tenseness, uneasiness, apprehension, worry, distress and dread. Do you get the picture? And your willpower, repeat, is just another pattern that internally you can spot. Externally we can spot. Put a name on it. But you can't do it. A, because there's nobody there for you to call you to do it. It just happens. Or it doesn't happen. And some people end up on the street that you can look down on, or some people get a good job that you could look up to. And I can recognise the pattern in that and give that a name as well. Bye.